So we'll move into talking this upcoming week, right? We won't be having a show next week because I will be in the UK. WWE Money in the Bank is next week, and as of right now, I think the card is pretty solid. I don't think if there's any matches that are being added, it's anything of substance because the card is pretty set in stone without a week left to go. But yes. Brandon was alluding to just a few minutes ago. I do have tickets to SmackDown next Friday night. I do not have, or on June 30th, I do not have tickets to Money in the Bank. It's just the tickets for Money in the Bank are absolutely absurd. I tried to get them when they actually went on sale. Woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning and tried to do all that. I couldn't get my hands on tickets. I've tried to talk to people within WWE to try to help me out in some extent. So far, that hasn't worked out. But I'm going to try to go. I mean, we'll see when we get there. We can get our hands on tickets. Any of those last-minute production leftovers ones, when they finalize the set and stuff like that. Unfortunately, though, with this, they've already kind of finalized the set because they're going to use the whole arena. So there's really not many more tickets that can be had for any of these shows. So I got my hands on some SmackDown tickets, which is interesting in its own right because we're going to get Asuka versus Charlotte on SmackDown with Bianca Belair essentially saying she's going to attack whoever is the winner, and I imagine that's going to set up a match for SummerSlam. And then Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defending the titles against Pretty Deadly, the surprise winners of last week's SmackDown number one contendership.
Was it really a surprise, though? Was it really a surprise? I didn't think it was a surprise. These guys, I'm not a huge Pretty Deadly fan, to be absolutely honest with you. I followed them a little bit in NXT. But just the way they've been presented to the audience since they arrived not that long ago, I wasn't surprised by this. I feel like the creative, I feel like the back office, front office, however you want to look at it, the big shots, the people that pull the strings, they see something in those guys. They've cut some good promos. They're interesting enough where I'm not surprised they won last week.
I'm not surprised because I don't see Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens losing the belts, so I feel like they're giving them a lesser team that they don't want to bury more and more. I think like the Brawling Brutes, for example, are like actual formidable foe, a foe that they could take on at SummerSlam, in a big-time match.
Yeah, but don't sleep on Pretty Deadly, though.
I'm not sleeping on Pretty Deadly in the future, but it's like, they just got called up. So I just don't see, them even needing some sort of dirty tactics to win this match in the sense of they just got called up. They're like Austin Theory was many years ago. He's doing great things now, but even still, he's not, winning the world title yet. I think this is like their first chance at those titles. I don't think they're going to win. I think Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are going to win cleanly. And like I said, like the Brawling Brutes are a team that you could actually see them facing at a stage like a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam, who would actually be somebody who could build the storyline, have an actual match, and where you don't know who necessarily is going to win. Similar to but the one match I think that has that kind of potential is actually Charlotte and Asuka. There's a match where it's not just Asuka defending the title against a new NXT call-up. That's a match where I could see, Charlotte winning this match and setting up maybe Charlotte versus Bianca or a triple threat match for SummerSlam. So that's some potential for SmackDown that I'm looking forward to. But
so wait, hold on. I'm just trying to remember the card off the top of my head here. So Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens don't have a match on Money in the Bank yet, right?
I don't think they're going to have a match. Well, I imagine with that, they're not going to have a match at Money in the Bank. The Money in the Bank match card as it sits right now, we'll go over it. And we'll talk some other Money in the Bank fun facts before we go off air. But with the Money in the Bank 2023 card that sits right now, the 14th annual Money in the Bank pay-per-view, might I add. If this was WrestleMania, this would be the one Austin versus Michaels with Tyson as a special referee. If you're keeping track of these pay-per-views in WrestleMania chronological order to try to see exactly how long a pay-per-view like Money in the Bank has been going on. It's been going on since the first Money in the Bank was essentially Hogan teaming up with Mr. T, and this Money in the Bank is Austin versus Shawn Michaels with Tyson. Show you the dichotomy of the time, and I feel like shows you just how long a person like Roman Reigns has probably been involved, because I think he wasn't on the main roster right when this Money in the Bank thing started, but he wasn't too far away. But the matches that we have right now, obviously the two Money in the Bank matches, the Women's Championship and the Men's Championship, or not championship, but Money in the Bank contracts. The men's is Ricochet, Nakamura, LA Knight, Santos Escobar, Butch, Damian Priest, so Butch from Brawling Brutes there, and Logan Paul, as he was just added on Monday Night Raw as I think somebody, I mean, I know they've already sold a lot of tickets, but he's definitely that big name intrigue that's kind of throwing, like we don't have Brock Lesnar on this card. We don't have any big namesakes. They're, drawing this huge crowd in London. Who can we get that kind of get some eyeballs on this pay-per-view so it doesn't just feel like, a B show? And then Logan Paul gets added, so that makes sense there. And as for the women's match, it's Zelina Vega, Becky Lynch, Zoe Stark, Bayley, Io Sky, and the winner from this past week over Raquel Rodriguez is Trish Stratus. So she'll be in this match as well. One match that I feel like definitely feels like a B-show pay-per-view. Cody Rhodes, great to see him on the card. He's going to get a great reaction. Who didn't love seeing him? Him versus Dominic Mysterio. I mean, that feels like a house show match. That doesn't feel like anything of huge substance as what we've seen Cody Rhodes in the past, right? This isn't Seth Rollins in Hell in a Cell. This isn't Brock Lesnar in like an I Quit match.
Dude, they haven't even really built this match up, really. I mean, yes, they put
Dominic Mysterio spending more time, hanging out with Rhea Ripley and building up Finn Balor than he is this match.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I'm like, this match to me, Rhodes and Mysterio, like, I'm hoping I'll be pleasantly surprised, but we know who's going to win the match. So, it's kind of an obvious thing, I feel like.
Then you have Seth freaking Rollins versus Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I was actually surprised because talk about this match really quick. Now, if you didn't watch NXT Gold Rush this past week, and I can see why the World Heavyweight title match was on week 1 and not week 2, because clearly these people are going to be overseas by next week's NXT, which assures you that Baron Corbin apparently will not be probably anywhere near WWE overseas because he'll be wrestling next week on NXT. But Seth Rollins and Finn Balor will be over the pond come next week's NXT show. But this week, Seth Rollins took on Braun Breaker, and Seth Rollins, was going to have an open challenge on Raw. Finn Balor interrupted that and put a hurting on Seth Rollins. And I thought he was going to interrupt the match with Braun Breaker. They had a clean match. They had a good match. But Seth Rollins got the victory. And then Finn Balor came out at the end to attack Seth Rollins some more. I could see maybe down the line we get like Seth Rollins and Carmelo Hayes and stuff teaming up. It seemed like we had a little tease at that there at the end. But Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, that's the next championship match for Seth Rollins. The first, I guess, real pay-per-view championship match. So the question is, I'll bring it to you. Is Finn Balor winning this match in Seth Rollins' first pay-per-view title defense?
No, I don't see it happening. By the way, I do like the way they're building this match. I feel like they're integrating NXT. They just did this past week here with Rollins and Balor. Obviously, Monday Night Raw, Balor's been attacking Rollins. And I will say though, the Rollins comment I'm paraphrasing a little bit. So he pretty much said, "That's the Finn Balor I'm looking for." So it's going to be a hell of a match. I think there's no question about that. I just don't think it would be a good idea for Seth Rollins to lose this match. He just got the belt, so I just don't think it would make a lot of sense. I think what will happen, my early prediction is I feel like it's going to be the match is going to, I guess, it'll end in not a clean fashion. I feel like they're going to make it in a way where at least Finn Balor can save face. It was a good match. Something maybe happened. Who knows? I mean, maybe something with the Judgment Day where the Judgment Day comes out and helps him. But indirectly, maybe Damian Priest does something accidentally that causes Finn Balor to lose the match because Finn and Damian they've been having a little bit of issues recently. Those are the seeds are starting to plant a little bit. So maybe that kind of happens, and then Seth Rollins wins the match. We set up something for Finn Balor potentially with Damian Priest a little bit down the line here coming up. That's where I see it happening.
I can even see a rematch of Rollins versus Finn Balor and like a different stipulation at SummerSlam.
Yeah. I think it's possible. I mean, Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. I mean, you could put that in any pay-per-view, and people are gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm definitely watching that match because those two dudes are pretty freaking awesome." No pun intended there. But it's going to be a good match. I'm not worried about that. I just don't think it'd be smart again to let Rollins lose drop the belt this quickly. Finn definitely deserves it. No questions asked. I'm a big Finn Balor guy. You know that. I've been a fan of his for a long time. I just don't think I don't think it's his time yet for that. I do think if they have a Seth freaking Rollins run for a little while, maybe they circle back later on at a future date, and Finn Balor takes the belt, because it kind of would be a full circle thing for Finn Balor. I just don't think the full circle happens yet. I feel like I think they're going to come back around to it later.
So what will probably be the main event, it's the storyline that's been going on for years, and it just keeps getting better and better. The Bloodline against the Usos. Obviously, we knew this was coming. I will say, I mean, I'll be honest, we've been on the podcast, and it's not like we're Nostradamus over here. It's just we can read the writing on the walls. But we've pretty much predicted where this whole thing is going since Royal Rumble, in the sense of the Sammy turn. Then we knew what we were getting at the Chamber. We knew what we were getting at Mania. We knew what we were getting, with the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, with the titles on the line at Mania. We knew we were eventually going to get this at Money in the Bank. So even though we knew we were getting it, even though I knew this tag team match was happening, essentially as soon as Night of Champions ended, even before Night of Champions took place, I knew we were getting this. But the way that they've done it has just been great. It's been compelling television. Obviously, Jimmy with the turn last week, getting us to think maybe the Bloodline is going to go a different way, and then he does a super kick on Roman and joins Jimmy. It's going to be the Bloodline Civil War tag team match. And what's kind of funny about this is the Usos took on Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins for the tag team championship at Money in the Bank 2013 on the pre-show. So think about how
that's crazy.
Full circle this. I mean, and that's not even Roman and Solo. That's Roman and Seth Rollins as the tag titles versus the Usos, which would now, I mean, because we're main eventing this without Seth Rollins in the main event. If Roman and Seth were in the main event, this clearly would be the main event. But it's Roman and Solo, and it's still the main event versus the Usos. But it just shows you how, don't swear off anybody. Obviously, that's at the same time that Stardust was running around WWE as well. So it's just crazy to look at some of these characters and see, how they have evolved in a way. Because, I mean, let's be real. This is the most compelling storyline WWE has probably had in my lifetime. And these guys have been around this company for over a decade, if not longer. And, Usos and, the Shield have been around for over a decade. And we've seen Roman a million times, but yet they find new ways to make this so compelling. I can't wait to see it. I don't know how this is going to go, because what's great is there's no titles on the line or anything, so the storyline can keep going. But I'll be honest with you, I'm stumped for thinking about who Roman Reigns is going to face at SummerSlam. A lot of people think it's going to be that Cody Rhodes rematch. They're not going to wait till Mania, but then I think Cody and Brock are probably going to face at SummerSlam again for that third time. So with this, I feel like I don't know what's next for Roman after this. I know SummerSlam, they're going to give him a big time opponent. I don't think it's going to be Jimmy or Jey Uso, because clearly they didn't want Sami Zayn in the main event at WrestleMania because he didn't have that cachet. So I don't think they want Jimmy Uso or Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns main eventing SummerSlam. Even as good as that storyline is, he needs another Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar, big time character opponent, for that kind of beast versus beast matchup. So I don't know what's next for Roman championship wise.
I got one for you. And this is going to be unconventional. I might get some heat for this, and that's completely fine. I don't think this match ends up this way, but what if Logan Paul wants to cash in at SummerSlam? Why not?
I'll tell you what would surprise the world is if somebody like Logan Paul won, and then what if he cashed in later in the night? What if he waited till the Usos beat up the Bloodline, cashed in?
Yeah.
Beat him.
Here's my thing, though.
That'd be the most surprising cash in of all time if he did that.
Yeah, arguably. I don't know if anything tops Seth Rollins. I think that's still, to me, is the pinnacle moment for me on cash-ins. But here's the thing. Logan Paul, that when you were talking about, okay, who's next? Logan Paul checks enough boxes for me because it's SummerSlam. You want it to be a marquee event. He's good on the marquee. He's pretty good in the ring, and we've talked about that. And he's also very famous. So that checks enough boxes where you put him in the match. Now, who would I conventionally want to win this match because he's over with the fans in a short time? It's LA Knight. LA Knight, baby. That's it. LA Knight's the guy.
LA Knight feels like Cody Rhodes felt before the Royal Rumble when it comes to predicting who's going to win Money in the Bank. LA Knight is my pick. People were predicting LA Knight to win this even before any of the competitors were announced. It was like Cody Rhodes. As soon as he said he was coming back at the Royal Rumble, even before he said he was coming back at the Royal Rumble, people are like, he's going to come back at the Rumble and win it. That's what he did. LA Knight feels like that sure bet. For some reason, for months and months, even before, like I said, any of the competitors were announced, people are like, LA Knight's going to win Money in the Bank, right? Even at WrestleMania, when he wasn't on the card, people are like, LA Knight's going to win at Money in the Bank, right? So it just feels like such an easy pick. But Logan Paul is probably my number 2. If there is some sort of surprise, Logan Paul would be a surprise winning a Money in the Bank because LA Knight does not. I guess I'm going to add now to the women's one we've talked about already a little bit, but just gave out who's in it. Who do you see leaving with the women's Money in the Bank contract?
I think it's Becky Lynch. I just, to me, I just don't know if they're going to put that contract in the hand of Trish Stratus because I don't know what her contract looks like. I know they drafted her and everything. To me, I think it's Becky Lynch. I feel like that's where it goes. I feel like something's going to happen with Zoe Stark and Trish Stratus where, there's a little bit of a dysfunction there and because maybe Zoe Stark wants to get it. And then Trish is like, no, you're going to let me take it. And then there's some issues there. So I feel like Becky takes advantage and wins the match. I mean, my dark horse, because what has she done lately for everybody in the wrestling world? Bayley. What if Bayley wins? That would be cool.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Remember, whoever wins Money in the Bank doesn't have to cash in, even though they do a lot, especially in the women's world. Cash in real frequently. They don't have to cash in. That doesn't mean who's going to be the number 1 contender for SummerSlam. So yeah, like if a Becky Lynch wins, I don't think that changes Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus again at SummerSlam, which will be a non-title match. So she could easily win, obviously, and just hold on to the briefcase. But if we were trying to think of like a number 1 contender for SummerSlam out of this, I would definitely say Bayley. Bayley could be somebody. We just saw Zelina Vega versus Rhea Ripley, and things didn't go over so well. And yeah, I don't think Zoe Stark is there yet. Clearly, she's still tied up with Trish Stratus. I'm worrying about that. Io Sky versus Asuka or something. Even though I don't think we're going to see that because right now Asuka, Charlotte, and Bianca are doing their thing.
That's intriguing.
So I think Bayley is a dark horse. Bayley versus Rhea Ripley, at SummerSlam, if that was the case, would be a pretty interesting match.
Yeah, we agree. We've agreed a lot tonight. I think Bayley. Watch out for Bayley. I mean, if Becky Lynch doesn't pull it out, Bayley is not somebody you want to sleep on. She's kind of been laying like low key a little bit, like. You haven't seen her pushed that much, in any major storylines really lately. So I feel like this could be Bayley's chance to get back on the main event women's picture, women's title picture. And what a way to do it by, winning the Money in the Bank. And then who would want to see Bayley cut Money in the Bank promos like just her toying with the crowd saying, oh, maybe I should cash in tonight. Maybe I won't. Like, Bayley's really good on the stick, and she always cuts a good promo. And I think putting that briefcase in her hand, just letting her run with that and have good promos along the way, I think that would be a good match going forward.